Okay, good. And if anybody else jumps into the meeting, I'll admit them into the meeting. So right now we do have a quorum, and so we're really ready to get started here. Let's see, I think the first thing to do is to start off with a review of the minutes from the May meeting. And I'll give everybody a chance to take a look at that. And let me know if there's any corrections that need to be made. It was longer than usual.
It was very complete.
I think it was good.
Yeah, they look good to me too.
Make a motion to accept the meetings as written.
I'll second that.
Aye.
Good, all right.
Aye.
All right, so does anyone disagree or have changes?
Yep.
All right, I'm just trying to make sure I'm ready to make notes of who's here. Okay, so we'll accept the minutes as written, and then if you see any changes, the next day or two, let me know and I'll just tweak them. And once again, as always, thanks to Catherine for doing a good thorough proofing of them. Kind of helps me out.
There was almost nothing wrong with it.
You're being generous.
Well,
Or you
Not
didn't
at
read
all.
them. All right, so moving on to the next agenda item, and that is what's going on with stormwater runoff and watershed erosion mitigation. The first item there is just our update of if anyone knows anything that's going on with the MVP action grant. And I'll probably, neither Dave or Eric, have you heard anything?
I have not heard anything.
We've done what we're gonna do, so I think it's just a waiting game now, right?
Yep, I agree.
I think that's right.
Sent our letter, yada, yada, yada. I'm expecting a positive result from that. That's my 2 cents.
That's good. One of my concerns is that we have to, if we do get that grant, we got to make sure that the area around the lake is, represented on the distribution of the funds.
I think we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But in case I'm sleeping at the switch,
Does anyone know, has anyone spoke with Shutesbury's representative or senator? They're in the process before the end of July of preparing the supplemental budget. And if there's funding so that maybe there could be an earmark in the budget, like the dam, to go towards the stormwater repairs, if that was important enough to the town.
I don't know of anybody who's done that.
It might be something to think of, because with the change of administration and the redistricting this year, there's kind of been a scramble across the state for anyone that has the reps and senators and stuff are working to, try to represent their districts, feeling that there's ample monies with ARPA funding and different things that they have at their purse strings right now, and that it might not be as likely next year. So it might be worthwhile if someone from town hall reached out to the representative and just let them know the progress and advances that have been made in the meetings with FERCog. So and then let FERCog take it from there. But touch base directly with the rep and senator. And they're working on a supplemental budget before session ends July 31st. So it's really not something to wait on if there was an interest in doing that.
Terry, does it have to be someone from town hall? Is that your recommendation? or it could be anyone on this committee.
Well, I think it'd be helpful to come from, because the funds would need to come to the town, that it could be a select board, or it could be the town manager or town administrator. Let them know of the meetings with FERCog, the engineers working on what they're working on, and if it could be considered, there could be some consideration given. That's the approach that was taken for the dam. And then when the governor's change, with all the work that went on with the dam, when that was approached and there was changes in like this, that are ahead of us at the state level, there went back and forth between the governor's office and the representatives to try to eliminate the earmark that was put in there by, so it just would be good this year, being election year, where everyone's looking for support of their communities, to try to pursue that versus waiting to new administration next year, where there'll be less money and less interest after everyone's reelected. So anyways, it's just a thought, and it just kind of made me think of it as I was reading some things for work, in different, what other communities are doing for different projects. So, but it could come directly from the I think the appropriate means would be to come from probably the Board of Selectmen in the town. They direct the town administrator, but from the chairman of the Board of Selectmen to the rep senator, and then a follow-up call or a follow-up email to FERCog to let them know that, this is important to the town and that you made that contact. And then if they could follow up.
Okay,
And if there's usually the way it works, I mean, there's going to be a certain amount of money that's given out to each community for these types of grants and stuff. So it's, no one needs to have hard fine numbers for the, for a budget for it. But I would say, just based upon my kind of engineering background and, kind of what I do for work, I would say it would not be, to ask for 300,000 or 350,000 would not be unreasonable for the work that is involved in the gravel roads around town. And that's kind of a short number as to what we're seeing for environmental grants by this administration right now and across the state.
So the letter would have to sort of say that we're trying to say that we want to make sure that it's supported at the state level.
Yeah, that is supported at the state level from the, it's supported at the state level at the, for nearly 2 decades, the town and Lake Wyola Advisory Committee and, and FERCog had been working on this. There's a real need in the community. I don't know if Shutesbury was recently. I know Wendell has been designated. You can look now on the Mass GIS as environmental justice community, perhaps. And I know Wendell is designated. Shutesbury might be. And that, consideration by representatives for this, for this work that the town and partnership with FERCog. That was the benefit when we started talking about this, probably like over 10 years ago, was to bring FERCog in, because they bring in large, as representing the whole county in the towns. They can bring in, the money can go to them and then be distributed to the community, or it could come directly to the town of Shutesbury. So
I mean, I'll bring it up to Rita, who's the select board chair or whatever, or I can get it on the agenda where we can talk about it.
Yeah, I think it would be just a letter to them and just to make them aware that there's been good progress and cooperation made, from our county, county level resource that we have to help with this, but that to advance any further, we need the state level support for it. And that, you know, they have the ability to put earmarks in the 319. They have the ability to put earmarks directly going to FERCog, or they could just earmark it like they did the dam for the monies to come directly to the town, which is probably the, you know, the most streamlined method.
Eric, when's the next select board meeting?
I believe it's next Tuesday.
Like the
This
day
coming
after the
Tuesday.
holiday?
What's that?
The 21st?
The 20, no, yeah, yeah, I think it is.
It'd be nice if we had a draft of the letter that you could have when you meet, is what I'm thinking. Terry, you want to just shoot me off some bullet points and I can draft a letter? So Eric
Sure.
can have something in hand?
Yeah, if you could draft the letter, or between the two, you draft the letter, and you know, we can, that'll definitely help move the process along.
On Tuesday. So, you know what I'm saying? I got to bang it out this weekend.
Yep. Yeah, I'll send you, we can send some bullet points.
Yeah, just send some bullet points to me and then I'll draft something up and I'll have, so Eric has something in his hands.
Okay.
That's a great idea.
Okay.
And I did just look at the schedule, and it is the 21st at 5:30 is the next select board meeting.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Don't be surprised there if you don't get that letter until Tuesday, sometime around noon. I'm sure I'm going to end up doing it at work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.
And so related to this, should I contact, should I make, contact the FERCog and ask them to do something, Terry?
I would let the selectmen discuss it first.
Okay.
And then if there was, positive interest to do that, then yeah, definitely let FERCog know, because they'll have their own legislative contacts as well to try to advance it.
Who is
Okay.
it right now? Is it Comfort or who's our rep?
You know, you asked that question, I was gonna say, I don't know who it is, because they just changed it.
Oh, really?
Well, recently, anyway.
All right. Well, it's easy enough to find out. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. So Terry's going to draft up some bullet points, send it out to Dave, or anybody else on the committee. Actually, maybe send it to everybody, Terry. And if anyone comes up with some additional bullet points, we can send it to Dave also.
Dave,
Okay.
the state representative is Natalie Blaze.
Okay.
No, not anymore. She's not anymore, I don't think.
She's still listed. If it changed because of the redistricting, that doesn't take effect until January 1st.
Okay, that's what it is then. You're right.
She's still our rep.
That's right. Okay, she's still a rep. I knew there was some confusion about it.
And then the senator is Joe Comerford.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was Joe was the senator. Okay. I've met with her before, so.
Yeah, both of them have been very sympathetic to doing what they can for the town or their districts and so forth. So
What I've
It's a
seen
good
a lot of recently is that the state reps are trying to help one another, like with the redistricting. So it also, as of January 1st, when it changes, so it would be helpful to also to find out who, or I can find out, Dave, who the new rep will be as of January 1st. And, they're excited to help the new communities that they're going to represent. And
Right,
stuff.
right. But Terry, that we're in a new district, a newly created district, so we don't have a rep yet.
Well, it's been determined, right, who it'll be.
No, they have to have an election for it. The person hasn't been elected yet.
Oh, okay.
Could be
All
you,
right.
Terry.
Okay. So anyways, but it would help to reach out, and then, but there has been very, a lot of support by whoever the current representative is, to help pass the torch for the town, so.
Okay, sounds good. We got a good plan here. Can we move on to the next item? Which is just what's up with FERCog, and basically nothing. I mean, they're working on it. They're supposed to have it completed by the end of June. So within the next week or two, they should have the watershed or water-based plan completed. As soon as I get it, I'll pass it off to everybody, and we'll work on providing them feedback to it. That's about all I have there. So it's coming, and it's definitely coming. Any questions or comments?
No,
Okay. Next item on our agenda is McAvoy Pond and the dam there. Is there any follow-up action that we need to do? We identified there's some potential problems there, particularly Walter did, with the inoperative control gate valve. At this time, is there anything we as a group need to do or could do?
Which pond is this?
This is
McAvoy.
Where's that pond?
That's the great big pond on the other side of Wendell Depot Road, opposite West Street.
Oh, okay. All right.
So Dave, Walter covered some of the issues there last meeting. Basically, what our concern is that there's no way to control the water level in that pond. And if that dam should breach or should partially breach, there's no way to kind of lower the pressure on the dam. And if it did breach, it would really inundate Wyola. It would flood the kind of the state park to your street, and it would raise the level of the lake, pretty quickly to like 6 or 8 inches, which would trigger our emergency action plan.
So I'm assuming does LWAC just want to send a letter to the town of Wendell expressing our concerns?
Well, the thing is, the dam is now owned in conjunction with the owners of the property around the pond and the town itself.
Okay.
They have created and just revised or updated their emergency action plan. So, they've done that part of it. I don't know if there's any funding or any actions or that to be able to do any repairs to it at this point. They've done some I don't know if you want to call it makeshift repairs, and they've shored up a bit of the sluiceway such that they reinforced it, but so it won't less likely to leak or let go. It's just that at this point that those been so inoperable for so long, and again, nobody owned it, nobody really knew so it just sat there. Now they have officially taken ownership of it and slowly working on getting some stuff on there, but it's funding and all that to be able to do any of that stuff. Yeah, so like I said, it's in fair condition, fairly good condition. It's not in any jeopardy of any failure or anything. It's just that it's right at this point, they have no way to control that. So if we were to have a predicted, large rainfall, they couldn't start lowering that in conjunction with us prior to anything. It would just, whatever came up and went over the spillway, if it overwhelmed that and started doing damage again, they don't have any control over it right now. So again, it's the town and the owners around there that own the whole thing jointly. And I think a big thing is just like anything with dams like that, it's the funding. It's a lot of money to do anything to that. So, I mean, we could express our concern. We've kind of done that through the reviews of the emergency action plan. But I don't know if we have any leverage in saying, trying to push him on to do something with it.
Don't we have the same exact issue with the dam on Ames Pond?
Basically, yeah, that would be the same thing. We have no control over that.
And I know that a certain individual was going to buy that property and determined that he was not going to because he would basically take ownership and liability for maintenance of that dam.
Right.
And his concern, I've talked to him recently, is that the new owners of that property don't quite get that concept. And
No,
so-
I don't think they do. I think that whole transaction went through without them realizing what they were stepping into.
Exactly. So it's issues on both ends. So, and I think however we decide to manage this, we might as well just put them both in the same bucket and approach it the same way.
Yep.
But, I would say, I think those homeowners should at least be made aware of the liability that they have if that dam should break and damage property, because it's on their dime. I don't know if the town's ever let them know that, but somebody should.
Yeah, I know they've dealt somewhat with, obviously they had to for the EAP with Office of Dam Safety. I don't know how much of that information has been, conveyed to them or not. I really don't know.
How about a letter from town council?
I don't know.
Just a thought. I mean, that is the issue when it comes down to it. Damage is it is privately owned. And something happens, he should know the consequences. I think that's all, it's almost our due diligence to do so. So I can mention it to Becky if you want, Walt.
Yeah, you can mention it to her and select board or Eric's here,
Eric's here.
to maybe, make them aware or just see, inquire what their plans are for doing anything with that dam.
Because if something should happen, they're responsible. Well, you never told me that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep. I would hope that as owners of the dam that they would know some of that, but I'm not really sure how much they're aware.
But even if they did, if I were in that situation, I'd play stupid unless I had something official that was presented to me beforehand.
Right.
Away with it.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that ignorance of the law generally is a bad defense of the law. Anyway, if something
Yeah.
happens.
It is, but
I didn't know. Well,
it's better
so
for us. It's better for the town to be proactive, I think, in this situation.
Yeah, and it is, like I said, it is co-owned by the town of Wendell. So, they have a stake in the game too,
Right.
and their responsibility. So,
So I would just bring it up to Becky and see if, town council is willing to draft a letter and send it to both parties.
right. Originally they even really kind of downplayed it. I think it was more their engineer when they wrote the EAP, saying that, they gave the cubic feet per minute flow and the volume that would come out of there and ended with the statement of it would have no significant impact on Lake Wyola. And I went, really? So I called Morris up and sent him the stuff, and he looked at it and says, yeah, I beg to differ with that, because this is what the effect would be. And it was, a raising of the level of the lake by, I think it was 6 to 8 inches or something like that, fairly quick rise. And depending on if that was a sunny day thing, or if it was a, 25, 50 year flood type thing where we're already to be starting our emergency action plan to dump that much more water onto it, would significantly affect what we were doing. I mean, even if it was a sunny day and we were at normal operating levels, it still, activates our plan, because that's a sudden release of water coming into the lake. And it is going to affect, all those properties. Maybe
It's a dynamic relationship, because if their dam's gonna breach, it's not probably gonna be good weather conditions. It'd be
No.
whether there was a storm. So then you already have the lake's watershed taking more water, so
Yep.
it's compounding effect. So I'm sure their engineers didn't, analyze that to make that statement.
Yeah, but they really did downplay it at first, Terry, saying that it would have no significant impact on Lake Wyola. Well, I beg to differ with you. So they did change all that. They did change the wording, and I'd have to look at it again to see exactly what they put in there, but they did make some major changes to it because of those, our concern with that.
So Eric, are you willing to speak with Becky about this and then come back?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah.
I think that's all we can do at this point.
In the Ames Pond Dam, that's a state listed dam as well,
Is it,
that
Terry?
they've been doing inspections on, that falls under dam safety
I think
jurisdiction.
I think it is a known dam by Office of Dam Safety. There was a lot of things with, ownership and responsibility and response to letters. Same as like Brown's Pond Dam, they're well aware of that. There's been multiple letters sent,
So there's an ID number for the dam, it sounds like it.
I believe there is. I think it's classified as it's not as significant. It's it's a low impact dam
Mhm.
in terms of houses affected, roads affected, and stuff like that. It doesn't carry anywhere near the weight that the Lake Wyola Dam does, or even the Ames or the McAvoy Pond does. But it is known by them. I know there's been some inspections done, I believe, over the years, and found that it was in poor condition, and a lot of recommended repairs to it. But again, when the private owned dam, they get into that, they'll send the letters, you're in violation, $500 a day, but then, nothing's ever followed up on it. There's been some of those at other ponds that I know of that have been, 3, 4, 5 years in the making. By now, if that was the case, the fines would be in the millions of dollars. So, but Office of Dam Safety over the years has been so understaffed themselves. A lot of times they send these letters, but they can't follow up on anything.
Sure.
Then the cost of doing it too on their part, trying to get blood out of a stone for some of these places is kind of tough too. So I'm not even sure where the ownership lies with that right now. I know there's been, between Kestrel Trust getting some of the land, somebody else buying it, and I'm not sure exactly how that all worked out. I have to talk to the assessors and see how that property is actually divided.
I'm pretty convinced that Kestrel took no part of that dam when they did that deal.
I believe that was the case, yeah.
They're not fools.
They didn't want any part of it. That's usually what.
No.
Yeah, I don't think anybody that really
usually-
knew anything about it would want any part of that dam.
Yeah, that's usually what happens with the land, with land trusts and stuff, is they don't want to touch that.
Yep.
All right.
Is it worthwhile to try to figure out who owns that dam?
I know who owns it. We know who owns it. It's the people who own that property.
Oh, okay, so it's,
Yeah, they own
so,
it.
oh, okay, I thought they didn't want it.
No, Kestrel didn't want it.
Okay,
They had no choice when they bought the property. I don't think they realized that. So
You're talking about Ames Pond, right? You're talking about Ames Pond?
yes.
basically a Trojan horse.
Yeah.
The reassuring part is that it's kind of hard to get around the inspection requirements, at least. So if they're doing their inspections every 5, depending upon the class, every 5 years or whatever, the reports that come from that are public information, and probably are they part of the town's emergency management plan, Walter? No.
No, it is not. No.
So the only follow-up items I have here is that Eric's going to speak with Becky about the 2 dams and maybe have some town councils just send a letter to reminding them of our concern. Is that all we're looking at right now?
Their legal responsibility.
Just be aware they're legally responsible and
Yeah.
Yeah, and point out that they, the importance of, they're maintaining compliance with the inspection reports. So that at least that aspect of it's hard for them to avoid. So that at least gives everyone a way to track the conditions over time.
Terry, you said those inspection reports are public records?
Yeah, through the Office of Dam Safety. If you have the dam ID number, then we can look at, someone can look up the latest report. So like first, say if someone owns a dam and it's a low hazard dam, and they haven't done an inspection in 20 years, then they've been out of compliance for, maybe they skipped 3, because usually those are about every 5 years. How frequently the dams are inspected is determined by the classification of them. So, so just reminding the owners of at least that gives a peace of mind as to someone's looking at it, an engineer's looking at it, that the conditions, that you're not seeing in the field any significant changes, or you are. So it kind of gives you some reassurance over time if they're not going to invest the money to do repairs. At least conditions not getting worse.
And we're talking about, just to be clear, we're talking about 2 different dams here, right? The McAvoy Dam and the Ames
That's
Pond
correct.
Dam.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's a dynamic thing when you do a study like that, is really like the, really on a regional level or a watershed level, is you would, if something happened with those, it has a significant impact to the Lake Wyola Dam, potentially. If they were, usually they look to see if they go, if there was a breach and they breached at the same time, because it take generally an abnormal weather event to cause it. So these are all the things that are available, like, with this, new environmental justice, where municipalities can, make the case. Windows and they seek, and they have been for 10 years, the environmental justice community. A lot of that is based upon historically not being served and the impacts of climate change and everything right now. And, it now is a good opportunity for them to, seek assistance if they need it from the state. And do a more comprehensive report. So it kind of gives some reassurance. Just like when the dam was repaired here at Lake Wyola downstream, I think there was, people that had real concerns in Montague down that way. And to make sure that, that the folks that are downstream, being the town of Shutesbury owning Lake Wyola Dam, that our concerns are being met because of these people's real estate and conditions upstream. So
Okay,
I'll talk to Becky for sure.
okay, good. Thank you. That's good discussions. Any other issues or thoughts on watershed runoff issues or erosion control?
Covered it.
Okay, great. Let's move on to the next agenda item, and this is the last week's Lake Wyola Meeting Association meeting. I wasn't there, but I was wondering if there was anything discussed that we need to follow up on.
I don't think there's anything we have to follow up on. I think it was the quickest meeting we've had in over a decade. So we blew through it pretty quickly.
How many people attended, Art? How many people?
45, 48.
That's not bad.
No, and I think this is our first in-person meeting since the start of the pandemic. So We had bigger crowds when we did them on Zoom. But we thought it was a good turnout and people wanted to blow through the agenda pretty quickly. I distributed Mark's comprehensive report through the newsletter. And then we did a quick summary and Mary was there. She can correct me. I think the only thing we had a substantive discussion about was Howie Kinder raised the issue of the threat posed by terrestrial invasive plants. So we have a weed watchers group that looks for aquatic invasives, but we do nothing to monitor terrestrial invasives. And he said the west side is just covered with Japanese knotweed, and that if that stuff gets down to the lake, it's going to pose a problem. So Howie and Kate Fordresher and maybe another person were interested in creating a committee to monitor this stuff and advise residents of what they can do about, I mean, I don't think there's anything you can do to get rid of
Oh, yeah.
Japanese
there is.
knotweed. It's like
Talk to
bamboo.
the town of Leverett.
Hmm?
Talk to the town of Leverett.
Okay.
They had a very aggressive Japanese knotweed program, and they have basically eliminated it. And
Oh, that's,
you need to dig it up and then actually burn the root system, which is what they had done. Of course, you can also get rid of it with a lot of chemical, which I know a lot of people around the lake have done. So, because we had an issue with it here on Shore Drive, down by the association hall, in the corner of the property there, and in some other areas. And I know that Roundup was used to get rid of that, but
oh, great. Yeah.
appropriate method to remove it, and the town of Leverett did such that. So I would reach out to them.
Do you have a name for somebody in Lebanon to reach out to,
I'll
or?
find out. I can get back to you, Art, on that.
Okay.
But
Yeah, that's great. But I thought it was positive that there are people who are interested in creating committee to start looking into this.
Japanese knotweed is also edible, just so you know. It's
All
like,
right.
it's a lot like rhubarb. You
And
gotta
then,
get it
and,
raw, though.
all right. And then the only other thing that came up is Howie said he thought that they're never going to replace that utility pole down by where the cover. So he's suspicious that the work is going to start in the fall on the culvert. But I don't recall anything else. Mary, do you remember anything else coming up?
Oh, I think that was it.
Very quick meeting. And Mark, thanks for the comprehensive report.
You're
That was
welcome.
great.
Thank you for presenting it. All right, very good. So as our follow-up items on that is Dave's going to see if he can find a name of a contact in Leverett who understands what they've done and get that off to Art, and Art is going to try to contact them.
Yep.
All right, great. Next item.
One more thing. I want to thank Catherine for coming and giving us a primer on mosquitoes. I think folks left the meeting terrified of Eastern equine encephalitis. So
They did look very sober.
yeah, no, you say what? We're going to die? So I thought that was a useful educational presentation. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, Rick.
Okay. Moving on to the next agenda item. It's okay with everybody, which is just an update on culvert replacement. And Art mentioned how he's concerned that the utility pole is not going to be moved. And I understand Eric has talked to Becky and
Well, she says just the opposite. So I guess we'll have to go. All I can say is I'll have to ask her again. But she said there were no definite dates, but that she's absolutely got reinsurance from National Grid. I think it is that it will happen, and I believe the town's actually even paid for it to happen or given them a deposit or whatever. So she said it's going to happen. So, but she seemed pretty positive about it when I talked to her. I was frankly a little bit surprised about how positive she seemed, but I would just in general have the same reaction, like I'll believe it when I see it. But anyway, I'll ask her again. I should have asked her before this meeting. I'm away. I'm on the road, so I didn't. So I thought I should have followed up probably before this to have a more updated position.
I guess the concern here from my perspective is that there's a drop dead date that thing's got to be moved by, so that the work on the culvert can go on. I don't know if there's a schedule for the culvert replacement this year, but if that pole isn't moved, the culvert cannot be replaced until next year. And so I'm wondering if anyone knows if there is an updated schedule yet for the culvert replacement, and what's the proposed starting date of that, and does National Grid know that there's a definitive deadline?
Oh, as far as I know, nothing, there isn't an updated schedule. They keep saying the work will begin at the end of August, but nothing's come through to, it still has to all go through Conservation Committee once they get an updated schedule. So they keep saying it'll happen, but nothing's come through.
I do know with regard to that pole, I believe the wires have been moved. The wires that were on the pole, old pole, have been moved already. So they just have to take the pole out, I believe. That's my sense of it.
Okay, so for now, there's no follow-up items.
Only question I had is who's the contractor that the town awarded the job to?
Oh boy, I remember that.
I would think after they sign that, I would think that, I mean, generally after the contract is awarded and signed, that the job belongs, if that's part of the scope of the job, that it's the contractor and that's ultimately responsible for pushing National Grid to do the work.
I don't know the answer either. I don't remember who. Do you remember, Walter, who the contract? I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
That the direct, I mean, maybe the
Walter, you're muted.
maybe the stalling is coming from the
I
contract.
gotta go back to, I was just trying to look that up to see, I've got some information here, but I think it was just the engineering plans. I don't know if it has anything with the construction. Give me just a second, I'll see if I can find it.
Oh, so has the town awarded the job? Put it out?
I believe so.
Yeah, it was,
yeah,
it was
yeah.
awarded. There was a schedule. I mean, the company even, they were the ones that put up all the detour signs last year in preparation for it. I mean, they were ready to go. There was a delay at first because there was a delay in getting the box culverts made, but I guess that was done. So that was the first delay. And then the second delay was just National Grid. So they were ready to move on it last year. It's just the one thing that held it up was National Grid and the pole.
So at this point, I mean, the contractor has a bonded obligation to the town through their contract award, and they ultimately should be the ones that are pushing National Grid to do that. Otherwise, their bond is in jeopardy for the job.
If it was worded as such, which it probably should have been, but I don't know. I never saw the actual contract to see.
Yeah, no,
I
didn't
would
either.
think that, I mean, that generally that, I mean, the design, the culvert, I mean, it was probably, it would have been bid under the Public Works general laws. So the language of that will reference the standard specifications of Mass Highway, which puts the burden on the contractor. But I mean, the town should be pushing its contractor versus National Grid directly.
Any discussion I've ever had with Lisa and Becky has been that the town is responsible for moving that pole. That's all I know. You may well be right, but that's what I've thought all along.
It just kind of sets up the potential for change orders and delays if, by the contractor can make that claim. But ultimately the town has their bonded completion deadline, so their bond ultimately is in jeopardy if they don't get it done.
I'll follow up with Becky again is all I can say. I don't know. Good question. I don't know the answer. but it's certainly been the sense that we have to do it. In fact, I know Becky said that we've paid them some money, so it's our job, I believe, to make that happen.
Okay, so basically Eric's going to follow up with Becky and we'll see where things sit. Well, we are starting to get close to deadlines here, and so
Yeah,
maybe-
definitely.
This is my understanding. It was a couple-month project, a 2-month project, so it's got to be done, before November.
Right. I just looked and also I have is the engineering reports, and that was all done by Niche Engineering. I don't have any of who the contractor is.
Okay, so Eric will follow up with Becky. The next item on our agenda, it's okay to move on? Apologize. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is just a kind of an update on what's going on with dam repairs. I understand Walter has made contact with Morris and they are planning a site visit sometime toward the end of July.
Yeah, that's correct. I talked to him about the overdue inspection reports and then the visit. The overdue inspection reports, basically, he is overloaded with a bunch of different clients, and as he kind of admitted, there was some other larger clients that were more of a squeaky wheel than we were being, and there was some deadlines on that, hard deadlines that he followed up on, and he was supposed to be then starting to work on and he promised and again, that's a Morris promise, but by the end of the month, he should have them all done and to us. He did say to come and meet with us. I mean, he does live quite a bit further away than he used to. He's out in upstate New York now. But he was saying towards the middle to end of July that heading out to the old property in Springfield, Vermont, and then he would be much closer and he would come down and, meet with us for the day and go over everything in detail right there at the dam, looking at everything and what he's going to do some more research to see what would be the more appropriate materials to use for each area of application. He doesn't feel it's anything that we can't purchase and do ourselves with his guidance a little bit, at least for all the mortaring of between all the rocks and the spillway. And he's going to look into, in some of the areas, whether it's better to use a two-part epoxy compound rather than some type of mortar mix. He says, yes, there's things you can use that are going to last a bit longer, but they're much more expensive, and we may not be able to have access to some of those chemicals or compounds. Whereas the things that are cheaper that we have access to, we can do at a much less expensive way, but they might have to be done a little more often. So you got to look at the balance of that. Is it easier for us to just get some of these off-the-shelf products and do it maybe every 5 years, or hire somebody with these special chemicals that are supposed to last much longer but not always guaranteed. So
I can't hear you.
and so he's willing to come down and meet with us and just talk about everything and look at it and and really have some better ideas by the time he gets down here, and that would be sometime in the second half of July.
Okay, sounds good. So you'll let us know when the date is. It was when
Yep, I'm going to try to keep bugging him, be a little more diligent about bugging him and making sure that he comes up with a date for us.
It's a touchy question, but are you comfortable staying with Morris as a town's representative
Yeah, I'm
on the dam?
I think what we have to, if we're looking at that, what the LWAC has to address with the town is, every position here has been an appointed position by the select board, and whether they want to, keep me on as, I'm willing to be here as a if necessary, as a ex officio. But, you know, if we were going to keep me on as in a official capacity, we should probably talk to the select board and see what that capacity would be and whether they're going to then appoint whoever the new chief emergency management director is to the board. And if they would want to keep me on at the same time, because that means it's a different number of people on. I don't know if it's limited or not. So that's all a question that has to be addressed between, I guess, a whack and the select board as to whether I'm willing to stay on and help out for sure. Just, you know, be unofficially got to be addressed at that level.
Okay.
But I want to stay on for a while, you know, and these are projects that have been ongoing, and I'd like to see some of them get to fruition and you know, make a nice even transfer, even if it takes a couple of years to do. I don't want to just walk away and leave some of the stuff that I've been, you know, totally dealing with and nobody else to be thrown into somebody else's lap. So yes, I'm willing to stay on. In short.
Okay, that's excellent. I'll send a note out to the select board, if it's okay with everybody, to because they're looking to vote on who stays on what committee. I think at the
Next
is
meeting.
that the 22nd? Okay, so I'll send something out. Or Eric, do you want to bring this up, or you or
Yeah, if
maybe
you
we'll
do
both
it, it's
do it.
probably just because you know, then you're doing it and I'm, yeah, it's
Right.
probably better if you do
It's
it.
more official that way.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
Where do
Alright,
we
so
stand, Mark, with our numbers that are like dedicated to LWAC, like for committee appointments and stuff? Do we have, you know, we have representative from the Board of Health, from the Conservation Commission. How many from at large?
Yeah. Are we limited to the number of people on the committee?
No, we're not. There's an original scope. It has representatives from Select Board and Concom, Board of Health, and then 5 residents around the lake. And then, but it also has a sort of catch-all category that's defined as someone with technical expertise. And so, which you clearly fall into, Walter. So we're not limited to the number of people.
Okay.
All right, so I'll pop something off this weekend to the select board. All right, next discussion item of DM is just the issues with this trash rack. I know Marion's husband sent out some technical material on trash racks.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's had a chance to look at it or what we want to do, if there's anything we need to do with that this time.
A lot of it was information. Some of it was stuff from I think it's a 1952 era manual from Rodney Hunt when they made, and maybe they still make trash racks. It was, you know, some just information on design of them. I don't, what a lot of it entailed, I think, is more than what we're looking at right now. I mean, it's ultimately, you know, like we've had thoughts in the past. Well, you know, if we had something that a walkway that went out there and you had a rack that came all the way up and you could, you know, raise it up, clean it off, let it back down, or have multiple racks, you know, that was one thing. But that's just, you know, also you look at that and that's an attractive nuisance. It would have to be totally fenced off. We'd have people out on there, standing on there fishing, and you know, the liability of all that. I mean, I know we're worried about the liability of just people on the dam itself. I know Howie said lately there's been a lot of people that are launching kayaks and canoes from the dam, which is not a designated launch area, especially with young kids and, you know, the rocks that they're trying to maneuver around. He's been concerned about that. So, you know, putting something, and I don't know what the cost of something like that would be. I mean, we're probably talking, you know, thousands of dollars, if not more, of engineering to put that in. And the question is that needed in this case? I mean, it's only usually a couple times a year at, you know, higher flow. If we can do simple modifications first and test it to see if it works, I think that's, you know, much cheaper investment at this point. And then if that doesn't work, then we look into, a total redesign of the trash rack. I know years ago, I mean, we've never had this problem until the dam was redone and that rack was changed. So but there was something in that design of it that's different than the old one. And basically just the spacing and the materials used. I don't know if we want to go so far as to designing this, big trash rack that goes up to the surface with a walkway out there and replaceable, or, at least even a platform to the trash rack. That's most of the stuff was for that, and which seems like a much larger dam operation than what this is. That's just my take on it.
So is your thoughts to just pull the existing trash rack off of, open, cut a few sections out to make the holes bigger and put it back in place? What happens?
Yeah, either that or take it out, and if taking every other one is too much of a space, maybe take some out and reposition, re-weld them into a plate, a spacing that's more even, that's larger than what's there. If taking every other one out is making it too big, that seems like a much more fiscally responsible thing to try first, than spending tens of thousands of dollars to build and design, and that's something much more elaborate. I mean, if the old one worked for hundreds of years and the new one isn't working, there's a problem with the design of the new one. So that's all I'm saying. I would think that it would be a lot easier it's only 2 bolts holding it on, undo the 2 bolts, take it up, make the modifications, put it back in, and see how it goes. That would be my suggestion. And we can talk with Morris about that more in depth when he's here. I mean, I've had discussions with him about it before, and as an engineer, he would have a little concern as it's not something that's been designed and all that. But then again, I don't know who actually designed the first one, if they just slapped something together. Never saw anything on that other than that it was just installed.
Okay, so there's nothing we really need to do with that right now. Then we'll wait till the meeting with Morris, and
Yep.
they'll help out. Give us.
That would be my suggestion. Yeah.
I think it's a great idea. Does everybody agree?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Next item is the installation of the safety buoys around the whirlpool. That hasn't been done yet.
No. Actually, I was talking to Howie about that yesterday. He stopped by. I have everything to install it. Right now, we're at a low flow. The gate really isn't open. We're relying, usually about this time of the year, we're relying on just what comes in to go over the spillway. That's more of a project when we're in the springtime during the scheduled or seasonal lowering, however we want to call that, or when he's having to let it down for an incoming storm to try to get the level down for a known high rain event. So it's not an issue to get it out right away. I did tell him everything's ready. I showed him where everything is. And he didn't seem too concerned right now about that, but it is something that before too long, before we get into the fall season, that they should be installed. The only thing detrimental about putting them out too early is, you're getting a lot of sun UV damage to them when we don't really need it. And everybody fishing there ends up hooking it with fish hooks and lures and all that. And in the past, what has happened is they've moved the cement blocks that will anchor it in, and then everything's loose and you can't tighten it up. I had made some anchors this year that when we put it in, I think will be very, very difficult for somebody to move with a fishing pole, which will keep it in place and, make it a lot easier for installation in the future. And that's all in place and ready to go. We just need to get it down there and do it. So,
Okay, so it sounds like
But
So it sounds like there's nothing we need to do right now because the valve is closed and there's no whirlpool activity.
no,
And it won't, and, okay, the only concern would be if we had an unexpected or a prediction of a big rainstorm
right,
coming, that Howard would have opened up the dam to try to lower the lake, open up the valve. And that would create the whirlpool.
right.
Okay, so there's really nothing to do right now. I'm available to help out if there's anything, if you want to put that in.
Sure.
We can use my boat or whatever you need.
Yeah, because we probably
let me
will
know.
need a boat or something to do it properly and get everything adjusted the first time. Once we find out the proper locations for the anchors, we'll be having to move those around a little bit and get the proper location and adjustment of the anchor ropes. I've kind of designed it that we could leave the anchor ropes in place with a float and everything. It's all stainless steel hardware. The thing is just trying to figure out how much below the water level we want it to float. So it doesn't, the only thing I don't want to see is it get hooked into the ice. And then with the ice, if it flows at all, moves that would have enough potential to move the anchors. And that would make it easier for installation. So we just have to play with it for a little bit, I think, when we go to do it. So yeah, when we go to do it, Mark, we'll definitely let you know. And it's going to take a little bit and probably a boat out there to kind of make adjustments as we go. And maybe
Okay.
get it wrong, but I'm trying to make it in the future so somebody can just pull, go out in a boat, pull the buoys out, clip them onto a line, they're done. No moving anchors and dropping anchors again every year. So
All right, sounds good. Any questions on the buoys from anybody? Or comments? Okay. The next item I added, which was the future role of LWAC in the dam maintenance. It sounds like that's unnecessary as long as Walter is willing to participate and stay on the committee. Is that everyone's sense? Is that your sense, Walter?
Yes, that makes sense.
I guess my concern is when Walter really retires from these activities, if he ever does, who's going to take the leadership role in the dam maintenance and activities?
I think that might, also unfold as whoever it is steps into the position of emergency management director, how much of a role they will or can take in that. So I think it's, over time, it's not, I don't think it's anything we can answer right at the moment. But as things unfold, we'll see how that goes, and we might be able to make a decision a little bit later on. But like I said, I'm willing to stay on, for a relatively significant time until we can get some of these projects done and get that figured out and do a transition of knowledge and power.
Great to me. Other comments?
Oh, sounds good.
All right, so we're at the last item. Is anything that does anyone have any other items to discuss?
Yeah, I have one thing to report. I was speaking with Grace, the town clerk, the other day, and I asked her what is standing between committees like this one and the Board of Health and being able to meet face to face in person. And she said that somebody from each committee, some designated person, has to go to town hall and learn how to work a hybrid meeting. And she said, and nobody from any of the committees has stepped up to do that. And I said, well, that's because nobody knows that it's available to do. And so now we know that. And perhaps I was thinking maybe Mark, you and I could go and learn that from Grace at some point. And maybe we could start having meetings live, but apparently they would have to be hybrid meetings. So we would have them at town hall in the meeting room downstairs with that monster TV screen, and they would be partially in person, and people could also Zoom into those meetings.
I'm definitely willing to do that, Catherine. I mean, I send the Grace and Becky a note the week before every meeting we have and say, can we do it in person yet? Can we do it in person? I never get back. Once in a while, again, they didn't get back to me. So if you can set something up, I will absolutely be there.
Okay, I'll talk with Grace about when the possibilities are, and then I'll get back to you. Because if I can do it for this meeting, I could also have the knowledge for Board of Health. It would be really helpful for me.
Yeah, I'd go to that too, just to go to it and see, just to, my audio visual interest is piqued.
Yeah, it could be
And I know
that she would actually do it as a class for several instead of
Yeah.
having to go in individually.
That makes a lot of sense.
I'll talk with her.
That's outstanding. Anything else? Okay, I think we're done for today. So we'll close the meeting at around 10:13 and oh yeah, Mary, I'm sorry.
No, I just saying bye.
Oh, okay. I thought you were raising your hand.
No.
Thank you, everybody. And so our next meeting will be in July. I think would be July 16th.
Okay.
Okay.
Everybody have a good weekend.
All right. Talk to you later.
Take
Thank
care.
you. Goodbye.
Thanks.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks.